Hey, today I wanted to share with you 15 things we do not do as a family and the reason why we don't do them. Because I have seen a number of these videos and I absolutely love watching them because it is just really nice to know what do people do, what do they not do, what can we learn from you. So call me nosy, but I just love watching those videos. So I thought let's create one myself because there's a number of things that we do or not do that might be interesting. So let's dive into today's video. Now, before we start, I do want to add a little disclaimer here because I am by no means saying that everything that we do not do is something that you shouldn't be doing either. It is what works for our family, and the only reason I'm sharing this is because it might give you some inspiration. So it is definitely not me saying that you are doing things wrong and we do everything right, because we're not. And another thing is there's a few things on the list that might change over time. It is what works for our family right now, but it might change in a few years. So as a little bit of a background, I am a mom to 3 kids and they are aged 7, 5, and 2. So that is a big part of what we do because if we had teenagers, the list would be completely different, right? So that is something to keep in mind. Now, without further ado, let's start with number 1. Okay, so the first one on the list is one that you've probably seen before on my channel, and that is we don't watch TV, nor do we have a TV. So that is something that we decided on a few years ago when our TV broke. We actually decided, you know what, we can't really afford a new TV, so let's just do without and we'll see what happens over the years. And then we started to think about it and we thought, you know what, it actually gives us so much time back if we don't watch TV that often, and it's not even good for our children anyway, so why would we even buy a TV? So we decided, you know what, let's just keep it out of the house. Now, that doesn't mean we never watch TV. We have a laptop, and what we do is we have once a week, we have a movie/series night as a family, and we watch Little House on the Prairie or Anne of Green Gables, things like that as a family. And once a week, our children get 1 hour of TV time, and they can watch what they want, but those are only programs that me and my husband selected. So they can choose what they want to watch, but not everything that is available, if you know what I mean. So that is the only times we watch TV, and that feels really good. I'm not sure what it's going to look like in the future, but for now, this is something that we're going to stick to for a long time, hopefully. But again, my children are young, so that makes it a lot easier. That is the same thing with the second point, because another thing we don't do as a family is sports. And our children are young, so they don't really need to be involved in sports right now. When they get older, we might actually get them involved in sports. We will let them decide what they want to do, but for now, the oldest is 7, so they don't really need to be involved in sports. And we actually really love having that time together as a family on the weekend. So on Saturday, we love to do just things as a family. We love to go on a walk, play soccer with dad, you know, things like that. That is something that we actually really enjoy right now. And again, because they're young, this is something that works for us as a family right now. Now, the third thing on the list is we don't let them do sleepovers. And this is something we decided on recently. And the exception to the rule is they still go to their grandparents. But other than that, we really thought about it and we thought, you know what, it is not really necessary for them to sleep at somebody else's place. They can play the entire day if they want to, but we really prefer having them just be at home in the night. So that is something we decided on, you know what, let's just quit it all together. We're not gonna have them have sleepovers. Now, number 4 is we don't send our children to school. We homeschool our children, and this is something that I feel very, very passionate about. It is not something I talk about on this channel a lot, but I am super, super passionate about homeschooling our children. And the number 1 reason for that is we really want to teach them how to walk with Jesus, getting to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and really teaching them how to do life with God. And instead of just throwing a lot of academic stuff towards our children, I really want to make sure that they not only grow in academics, but that they also grow spiritually. So that is one of the most important reasons for us to homeschool our children, to make sure we have that balance, because spiritual growth, in our opinion, is just as important as academic growth. You can be the brightest person there is on the planet. You can know everything, but if you don't know God, what is the use, right? So one of the most important things that we decided on is, okay, we will homeschool our children no matter what. We will do whatever it takes to make sure that we can homeschool our kids. And that means that, yes, we do live on one income and it's tough, but it is very important to us to really homeschool our children. It is something that we are both very passionate about. So that is one thing that we don't do. I plan to not send my children to school for a very long time. Again, they're young. But for now, for the next couple of years, they will stay home with us and I will homeschool our children. Next thing on the list is we don't do phones for our children. Now, one of the main reasons is because there is so much junk that you can find on your phone. So the number one thing is we don't want smartphones for our children. Now, when we ever get in a situation where our children could use a phone just to make sure that they can call us whenever there's an emergency, we might get them a phone, but that will be one of those very old, like Nokia or whatever phones that can only text and call, and that's it. Because I don't really feel like children of that young age need a phone. I see kids that are 5 that have a phone, which is very useless in my opinion. The only thing they will do is play games and do things on their phone that they shouldn't do, or see things that they shouldn't see. So we just stay away from it altogether. They are at home all the time, so they don't even need a phone. This is something that will probably evolve over time, but for now, they don't need a phone, so they don't get a phone for the next couple of years. Okay, next up is no video games, which is kind of similar to no phones. We don't want to have them play video games because of all the junk that you see in video games these days. I would rather have them just play outside and do fun things outside instead of sitting indoors playing video games all day. Now, keep in mind, we don't have a TV, nor do they have phones. So it is a lot easier for us to say, okay, there's not going to be video games, but I do really think there's a lot of stuff that they see and hear and do in video games that is not necessarily beneficial for children, and especially in the age they are in now. When they get older, they might do video games. We'll see what happens then. But for now, I really don't want them to spend their time just playing games inside while they can play outside and have fun, ride their bikes and do things that children should be doing. So that is something that we decided on right now. No video games. The only games we play is games that we can do at the table as a family with cards or whatever. And the next thing on the list is we don't do toys with sounds. Now, we do have them because for some reason, family always feels sorry for our kids that they don't have toys with sound. So we do get the occasional car that makes the ambulance sound, for example, things like that. But other than that, we don't do toys with sounds. First off, it drives me and my husband crazy. I really don't like toys with sound. And second, I don't like the toys where they speak and where they learn the ABCs or things like that. I don't really like it because it's very passive. They just push a button, it says something, and they are supposed to do something with it. I really don't like those type of toys. I'd rather have them just grab a bunch of blocks and me doing it with them and counting with them and saying, hey, this is number 1. What if we add 1? What does that make, you know? Instead of just a toy where you push a bunch of buttons, and oftentimes they don't even push a button and listen to what is being said. They just push the button because they like the sound. It is just very passive. I want them to play with toys and think of their own creative ideas and think of ways they can play with it. I really love open-ended toys, just things that they can use their imagination and turn it into a road one day and then turn it into a castle the next day. You know, things like that is something that is very important to me because I really want them to develop that creativity. So yeah, no toys with sounds in our home if it's up to us, but apparently my family thinks differently. Next up is we don't do sodas. Our children basically only drink water and milk, and occasionally they get tea, but they don't really like tea that much, so it is usually just water and milk. First off, I really don't want them to have too much sugar. We were very strict on sugar in the first 2 to 3 years, I think, of my firstborn. We kind of slipped a little bit. So they do get the occasional piece of candy, but that is very sporadically, and it is not something that I want them to get used to. So they do not get candy every single day. They don't get cookies or whatnot every day, because I really don't think that is necessary. And one thing that I really don't want them to get used to is soda. I really want them to just drink water, enjoy the taste of water, and just really feel like, okay, if I'm thirsty, I'm just gonna grab water, instead of if I'm thirsty, I'm gonna get Gatorade or cola or whatever people drink. And it is easier for us because my husband and I, we don't drink soda either, so we just don't have it in the house. We have water and milk, and that is basically it. And my husband and I drink coffee and tea. And what I love about it is when we go out to a birthday party or when we go out for dinner or whatever it might be, they really enjoy their glass of just plain orange juice or apple juice or whatever it is. And I really like that, because if they would drink apple juice every single day, it wouldn't be such a treat for them. But right now, when we go out for dinner, it is amazing to them that they actually get a glass of apple juice. And I love that. Now, the next couple of things on the list is not necessarily some things we don't do, but it's something we are very picky with. And the first one of those is friends. And of course, the children have friends, but we are very picky with who they play with, because I do want them to establish really good friendships. But a really good friendship is based on similar values. The children that they call friends are actually people that are from our church, and we know that we have the same values. And I think having the same values makes it a lot easier to build up a friendship and to create a lasting friendship. So we kind of choose their friends because we really want them to have lasting friendships and not people that just influence them in the bad way. So it's not necessarily that they don't have friends, but it is something that we have a little bit of a hand in, because again, they're young. So I do think that right now we can kind of mold them in the right direction. And when they get older, at some point, we probably don't have any say in it anymore. But right now, I really want them to see the value of a good friendship and what a good friendship looks like and what it's based on. And that has everything to do with values and with what do you believe and things like that. So that is something we help our children with at this age. And that is the same thing for the next thing on the list, and that is books. We don't just go to the library and grab every book on the shelf. I always read through the book and I make sure that it's something that aligns with our values and with what we believe, because I don't want them to be influenced in the wrong way. Now, that doesn't mean we stay away from everything that we don't believe in, because there are things that we bring up with our children that are not necessarily things we believe, but that you see in everyday society. But that doesn't mean that we need to constantly read books about that certain topic. We just talk about it. Okay, this is some things that you can see in the world, but this is how we see it, and this is what God says about it in His Word, or this is what we believe is true, or this is what God told us to do. So we don't necessarily stay away from the topic, but we make sure that it's not something that they get indoctrinated with through books and through music and through movies, which is the next two things. Because again, with music, I don't just want them to turn on the radio and sing with every song they hear, because a lot of times there's a lot of bad words in music right now. And I don't just want them to sing it without even thinking about it. We make sure that first off, we sing songs that we agree with. And secondly, I always tell our children, okay, what are you singing? What does this song say? And what is this song about? Because I really believe that it's very important to think about what are we actually singing. And I don't know about you, but there have been songs that I sang as a teenager that come up on the radio right now, for example, when I'm at the store and I hear it on the radio and I'm like, this is actually really weird. Or did I really sing those songs as a 13-year-old girl? Because right now I'm like, wow, that text is not necessarily what I would love my 13-year-old to listen to. So I really want them to think about it and to really think about, okay, what am I singing? And is this something that I want to be singing? And is this something that I want, that I want to say out loud? Because words, there's power in words, because the Bible actually says that death and life is in the power of the tongue. So we really need to be careful with what we speak. And that is something that I'm very particular in music. Because again, there's so much junk in music. There's also a lot of songs that are just not for their age. Our oldest is 7-year-old, so he doesn't need to learn all those popular songs right now. He just needs to learn children's songs because they are fun, they are for his age, and those are things that we agree with, and that is suitable for his age. So that is something we are also very particular in. And that is the same thing with movies. We hardly ever watch a movie. Again, we don't really have a TV, so it is very hard for us to watch a movie. But also, there are so many movies that we just don't agree with. And I don't want them to watch that. Sometimes it's because of their age. Sometimes it's because of what we believe. Sometimes it's both. But there are a lot of movies that I just don't want them to see. There are a lot of movies these days that I just don't think are suitable for their age. The other day, we were watching a movie that was supposed to be for all ages. And we turned it off after, 5 minutes because we said, this is crazy. There were sexual words in it and things that our children don't even need to learn right now. And we thought, why has this even the stamp of suitable for all ages? Because it's not. And that is something that we see often. So we don't even go to the movie theater anymore because a lot of those movies just don't align with our values and are not suitable for children in our opinion. So we are very picky with what movies we watch, what music we listen to, what books we read, things like that, because again, there is so much junk out there. You really need to be careful with what your children will hear, see, read, and come across. So that is just something I wanted to add in there as well. Now, next on the list is not eating out. Now, this is not something we never ever do, but it's something we hardly ever do. Because first off, I just love being at home. I love making meals for our family. I love making sure that we have nutritious meals, and I just love cooking. And it's something that I have learned over time. I basically taught myself how to cook, and it's just, I really love doing it. But also, we are a one-income family, so it's not in our budget to go out to eat all the time. And I'm not even missing it. I just want to make sure that we spend a lot of time as a family, and I don't really care whether that's at the home or outside of the house. So I really enjoy being home, cooking my own meals, and just spending time with my family at home. Now, along with cooking and making meals, one thing I do not do, and that is something that I actually decided on before we even had kids, I told my husband, I am never, ever, ever, ever going to cook separate meals for picky kids. I do not do that. You just eat what mommy puts in front of you, and that is your meal today. So we are very strict about it because I do not want to cook a couple of different meals. And another thing is our children literally eat everything because we gave them everything and we say, okay, you might not like Brussels sprouts, but we're gonna have it tonight, so you better eat it. And they always have to try it. And the number of times that our children said they don't like it, they need to finish their plate, and it depends on their age how much that is. They need to finish their plate, and the number of times that they actually asked for seconds after they had a couple bites, because after a couple bites, they're like, well, this is actually not that bad. So don't give up too easily on your children when they say, oh, I don't like this. Oftentimes, our children have said that they actually do like it after a couple of bites. So make sure they actually eat more than just one bite. Now, the last thing that we do not do as a family is we do not talk negatively. And this is something we are constantly working on, but it is very important to us because I really don't ever want to hear my child say, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I can't do this. Things like that. I really don't want to hear my children say it. So it's something that we are working on. Now, when we're doing school, for example, our oldest might say, oh, this is so hard. I can't do this. I am so bad at reading. So I will say, please rephrase what you just said. And he will say something like, I'm not that great at reading right now, but I am improving. Or I'm having a hard time, but that's okay. I am still learning. I want to make sure that they do not deny the fact that they're having a hard time. I just don't want them to say, I am bad at reading, because it's not their identity. So I don't want them to say, I am. I just want to say, I have a hard time doing this, or I am still struggling with, but not saying, I am bad at reading, or I am ugly, or I am fat. What I want them to say is things like, I'm trying to do this better, or I want to improve in such and such. Now, talking negatively is something that we are constantly working on, especially with our children. And it's something that we as parents also struggle with sometimes. So It's something we all need to learn, right? So anyway, these are 15 things that we do not do as a family at this point in time. Again, our children are young, so this might all change in a couple of years, but this is what we're doing right now. And I'm curious, what are some things that I didn't mention that you are not doing, or things that I mentioned that you're actually also not doing as a family? Let me know down below, because I love to learn from you. And I just love having that conversation in the comments. So let me know down below, and I hope to see you in my next video.